It's official. Donald Trump's one big, beautiful bill, the massive tax, spending, and immigration package, has now become law. Passed narrowly by the House on July 3rd and signed by Trump on July 4th, the bill was celebrated with fireworks, flags, and fanfare during the America 250 rally in Iowa. The White House is calling it a declaration of economic independence. But beyond the patriotic headlines lies a bill that's already being called one of the most consequential and controversial pieces of legislation in decades. Tax breaks for workers and the wealthy. Let's start with what made this bill so attractive to Trump's base: the tax cuts. First, it makes permanent the 2017 Trump-era tax reductions that were set to expire in 2026. That's a big win for high-income earners and corporations. But this time, the bill also offers something new to working-class Americans: tips and overtime pay. If under $150,000 annually, will no longer be taxed. That means waiters, delivery drivers, and others in the service sector could see more take-home pay. According to the Washington Post, the standard deduction has also been raised, with married couples now able to deduct over $32,000 from their taxable income. There's also an increase in the child tax credit, up from $2,000 to $2,500, extended through 2028. While Republicans say this is the largest tax cut for the middle class in history, critics argue the richest Americans still gain the most, with the top 20% of earners expected to receive nearly 72% of the benefits. A MAGA account for your baby. One of the more headline-grabbing parts of the bill is something called the Trump account, a tax-free savings account that gives every newborn a $1,000 head start. If a child is born between January 1st, 2025 and January 1st, 2029, they're automatically eligible. Parents or guardians can contribute up to $5,000 per year, and the funds can be invested like a Roth IRA. Half of the account can be accessed when the child turns 18, with full access by age 25. According to Time magazine and CBS News, this account is being framed as a way to encourage long-term saving and financial independence for the next generation. But Democrats say it's little more than a political gimmick timed to appeal to young families before the 2026 elections. The quiet war on welfare. To offset the enormous cost of these tax breaks, the bill imposes deep cuts on federal welfare programs, primarily Medicaid and SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that over the next 10 years, up to 17 million Americans could lose Medicaid coverage. That's because the bill adds strict work requirements for adults without young children. If you're not working or actively seeking work, you lose eligibility. SNAP funding is also reduced, shifting more of the financial burden onto state governments. According to AP News and Al Jazeera, states will now be required to review eligibility more frequently and enforce stricter job tracking. Republicans argue this promotes personal responsibility. Democrats say it punishes the poor. A Fortress America budget. Security spending saw one of the biggest jumps in this bill. Defense received an additional $150 billion, which includes funding for a new missile defense system dubbed the Golden Dome. Trump also pushed through over $50 billion in additional funds for ICE and more than $100 billion overall to border security and deportation infrastructure. This includes restarting wall construction and increasing mass deportations. As reported by The Guardian and The Daily Beast, the Department of Homeland Security will also expand its surveillance and rapid response teams. The administration argues these moves are necessary to restore national security. Critics see them as political theater. Healthcare coverage in jeopardy. Medicaid is one of the biggest casualties in this legislation. Alongside work requirements, the bill slashes over $1 trillion in projected funding over the next decade. That means fewer resources for state programs, rural hospitals, and seniors relying on home care. The Congressional Budget Office projects that these changes alone could result in between 12 and 17 million Americans losing health coverage by 2035. According to Vox and NPR, rural and lower-income communities will be hit hardest, with long-term ripple effects on healthcare access, affordability, and outcomes. The end of the Green Deal era. This bill also marks a significant reversal of the Biden-era climate agenda. It eliminates clean energy tax credits for wind, solar, and electric vehicles that were part of the Inflation Reduction Act. Funding for federal climate resilience programs is slashed, and corporate carbon reporting rules have been paused. The administration argues this is about cutting red tape and boosting economic growth, but environmental groups warn that it could set back climate progress by at least a decade. According to reports from the New York Times and Scientific American, this could also discourage private investment in green tech. Restricting the courts. A little-noticed section of the bill limits the ability of federal courts to review or overturn certain executive actions, particularly those related to immigration and budget enforcement. Legal scholars say this represents a subtle but serious blow to judicial independence. According to reporting from the Daily Beast and the Washington Post, this could allow the executive branch to bypass checks from the judiciary on key issues. Democrats have already hinted at legal challenges, and several governors have pledged to take the bill to court. Silencing state election oversight. Another overlooked provision bans state governments from using artificial intelligence tools to review or regulate political ads. That includes deepfake detection, ad fact-checking, and algorithmic transparency laws. Supporters say it protects free speech. Opponents argue it opens the floodgates to misinformation in future elections. According to analysis from The Verge and MIT Tech Review, this provision could prevent states from combating deceptive political content, just as AI-generated media becomes more powerful. What it costs and who pays. The bill is expected to add between $3.3 and $4.5 trillion to the national deficit over 10 years, according to multiple independent estimates, including the Congressional Budget Office. Most of the cost comes from tax reductions. And while working-class Americans do get some relief, the top earners receive the lion's share. Meanwhile, the federal safety net is trimmed, and spending shifts toward border and defense projects. Critics argue that the bill redistributes money upward, taking from programs that help the poor to fund benefits for the rich. Supporters say it jumpstarts economic growth by rewarding work and investment. What happens next? Trump and Republicans are calling this the crown jewel of his second term. At the July 4th rally, he called it the start of a new American century. Democrats are calling it a betrayal of working families, and legal challenges are already underway. Lawsuits are expected from civil rights groups, state governors, and healthcare advocacy organizations. Meanwhile, the 2026 midterms are on the horizon, and this bill, with its tax cuts, MAGA accounts, and social program reforms, will likely become the centerpiece of Trump's campaign pitch. Whether it lifts America or leaves millions behind remains to be seen. This was Buck Breakdown, cutting through the noise and exposing what really lies behind the headlines. If this bill shapes the future of America, you deserve to understand every part of it, not just the slogans. So if you're ready to keep questioning power, decoding policy, and digging deeper, subscribe now, like this video, and stay with us as we break down the next big battle in Washington.